The hospital's sterile hum still clung to my senses as I stepped out into the crisp evening air, a day earlier than expected. My chest tightened not from the pneumonia that had landed me there, but from a strange, unshakable unease. I pictured this moment for days, walking through my front door, seeing Emily's warm smile, feeling her arms around me. Instead, the cab ride home was quiet, the driver's radio murmuring softly about love lost. My keys jingled in my trembling hand as I approached our modest brick house, its windows glowing with a warmth that felt oddly foreign. Something was wrong. I could feel it, like a shadow creeping across my heart. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of jasmine, Emily's perfume. The living room was dim, lit only by the flicker of a candle on the coffee table. My duffel bag slipped from my shoulder, thudding against the hardwood. Then I heard it, a low, unfamiliar laugh from upstairs, followed by Emily's voice, soft and intimate in a way I hadn't heard in months. My stomach lurched. Each step up the creaking staircase felt like wading through quicksand, my pulse hammering in my ears. At the top, the bedroom door was ajar, spilling soft light into the hallway. I froze, my hand hovering over the knob, as their voices intertwined like a cruel melody. "God, you're incredible," a man's voice murmured, deep and warm. My chest caved. I knew that voice, Mark, my best friend since college, the guy who'd stood at my wedding, grinning as I vowed to love Emily forever. Her giggle followed, light and carefree, a sound that used to be mine. "You're not so bad yourself," she teased, her tone dripping with a tenderness that stung like a blade. I pushed the door open. Slow and deliberate, the hinges silent for once. There they were, tangled in our bed, my bed-hurt dark hair spilling over his chest, his hand tracing lazy circles on her bare shoulder. The world tilted, my breath caught, sharp and ragged, as Emily's eyes flicked up and met mine. Her face, drained of color, her lips parting in a silent gasp. Mark scrambled upright, the sheet slipping to reveal too much. "James," he choked out, his voice a mix of panic and guilt. Emily clutched the blanket to her chest, her eyes wide, glistening with something that wasn't quite remorse. "Get out," I said, my voice low, barely recognizable. It wasn't a shout, but it carried the weight of everything breaking inside me. Mark fumbled for his clothes, muttering apologies that sounded hollow, like words read from a script. Emily didn't move, just stared, her mouth opening and closing, as if searching for an explanation that didn't exist. I turned away, unable to look at her, and walked downstairs, each step heavier than the last. The front door slammed behind Mark, leaving a silence that screamed louder than any argument. I sank onto the couch, my hands shaking as I stared at the candle's flickering flame. Emily appeared minutes later, wrapped in a robe, her hair still mussed. She stood in the doorway, wringing her hands. "James, I didn't know you'd be home tonight," she stammered, as if that explained anything. "You didn't know," I repeated, my voice cracking. "That's your defense." "I was in the hospital, Emily, fighting to breathe, and you're here, with him." The words tasted bitter, each one a fresh wound. Her eyes filled with tears, but they didn't move me. "Not anymore. It wasn't planned," she said, stepping closer, her voice trembling. "It just happened. You've been so distant, James, even before the hospital. Work, always work." I felt invisible. I laughed, a hollow, jagged sound. Invisible. I was building a life for us. Overtime, late nights, all for us. "And you, repay me by screwing my best friend." My voice rose, the anger spilling out, hot and raw. "How long, Emily? How long have you been lying to me?" She flinched, wrapping her arms around herself. "A few months," she whispered, barely audible. "It started after your promotion. You were never here. And Mark," he listened. "He was there?" I stood, pacing the room, my hands clenched into fists. The betrayal wasn't just the act, it was the months of secrets. The smiles she'd faked, the nights we'd lain side by side while she carried this lie. I thought of the hospital, the sterile loneliness, the way I'd clung to thoughts of her to pull me through. "I trusted you," I said, my voice breaking. "I trusted him. And you both." I couldn't finish. The words dissolved into an ache that clawed at my chest. She reached for me, her hand trembling. "James, I'm so sorry. I love you. I didn't mean for this to happen. We can fix this, can't we?" Her voice was desperate, but it felt like a performance, a plea to save herself more than us. I stepped back, her touch burning like acid. "Fix this," I echoed, my voice barely a whisper. "You broke it, Emily. You broke us." The room felt too small, the walls closing in. I grabbed my duffel bag and headed for the door, ignoring her sobs, her pleas to stay and talk. I couldn't. Not now, maybe not ever. Outside, the night was cold, the stars indifferent. I drove aimlessly, the city lights blurring through tears I hadn't realized I was shedding. My mind replayed every moment, her laugh, his hand on her skin, the way she'd looked at me, not with love but with fear of being caught. I pulled into a motel parking lot, the neon sign buzzing like my thoughts. Inside the cramped room, I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my wedding ring. It felt heavy, a lie etched in gold, The next morning, my phone buzzed with texts from Emily, each one a variation of "I'm sorry" and "please come home." I didn't respond. Instead, I called my sister, Claire, the only person I could trust not to judge. Her voice was steady, grounding, as I poured out the story. "Come stay with me," she said without hesitation. "You don't have to face this alone." At Claire's, I tried to piece myself together, but the fragments were sharp, cutting deeper each time I thought of Emily. I saw her in everything: the coffee mug she'd picked out, the way the sunlight hit the window like it did in our kitchen. Days turned into weeks, and I wrestled with questions that had no answers. Had she ever loved me? Was I not enough? The trust we'd built over 7 years was gone, replaced by a void that echoed with doubt. One evening, Claire convinced me to meet Emily, to at least hear her out. We met at a quiet cafe, the kind of place we used to love. She looked smaller, her eyes red-rimmed, her hands fidgeting with a napkin. "I ended things with Mark," she said, her voice soft but steady. "I know I destroyed what we had, James. I'll spend the rest of my life regretting it. But I love you. I want to try again." I studied her, searching for the woman I'd married, but all I saw was the lie. "I don't know if I can ever trust you again," I said, my voice calm. "But final love isn't enough when it's built on betrayal." Her face crumpled, but I felt no satisfaction, only a deep, aching sadness. I stood, leaving her there, the weight of my decision settling like dust. Driving back to Claire's, I felt the first flicker of something new, not hope, not yet, but the possibility of it. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. The pain was still there, sharp and relentless. But so was the strength to keep going, to rebuild a life that was mine, not ours. The stars above were clearer now, and I let them guide me forward, one fragile step at a time.